injury attorney. He's a Marine vet who trains like a beast, fights like a lawyer, and thinks like a philosopher. No BS legal takes, real discipline, zero ego. You'll get sharp opinions on court rulings, law, enforcement overreach, and how to protect your rights. He teaches you how to control your body, your mind, and your future. Discipline equals freedom. Follow Michael Ehline before he hits 10K. Real content, no filters. Marine, fighter, attorney. Follow now.
If you're not working out, drop and give me 20 right freaking now.
Boots hit the pavement, dust in the air. Marine grit still lingers, never fades anywhere. Steel in his eyes, sharp as a blade. Just as the mission battles never evade. He's not just muscle, he's mind and might. A soldier, philosopher, ready to fight. Michael Ehline fights for you, breaks the chains, sees it through, trained like a beast. Fight like the law. Michael Ehline stands above it all.
Well, what do you guys think about that? That was pretty cool, huh? So that was my buddy History Viper. He helped me create that. So give me a bunch of ones for History Viper. Good seeing you, Jody Shiloh. Sorry I wasn't able to come on till a lot later tonight, guys, but hopefully people will show up and get an opportunity to learn a little bit about what's going on with government surveillance and how Edward Snowden single-handedly helped slow it down quite a bit. I mean, we were on a fast track to becoming like Canada, California, or communist California, China. And Edward Snowden had a lot to do with stopping that. So this show tonight is going to be dedicated towards the question of whether or not Edward Snowden is going to be pardoned. So hopefully you guys will like the show tonight. I was able to find a show that lays out most of the story the same way that I would have from reason.com, and they're allowing you to share it with their Creative Commons license. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you today, guys. So a lot of people don't know who Edward Snowden was, who are younger, but he was a whistleblower who uncovered government surveillance that still to this day is being used against we the people in violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. And we know that Congress and other anti-American communists and such have infiltrated our government, and this has been allowed to happen, unfortunately. And Jody, hopefully you can hear me, so give me some 5x5s. I want to make sure I got comms. I'm going to take a look over here to make sure, because yesterday we were having some communications issues, so I just want to make sure. Okay, it sounds like I got comms, so that's a good thing. So anybody who's just joining the show, I am attorney Michael Ehline. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and Texas, and I do civil rights, constitutional law. I got my start out doing appellate law and criminal defense. I cover stories that are interesting to me, like Lane Myers or the armed fisherman. Alan Beck works with my office. He's one of the preeminent Second Amendment rights lawyers in the country. But in order for me to feed my family, I realized long ago that all these cases that are near and dear to my heart, that are constitutional law, they don't pay the bills because the amount of time it takes to do taxes and cover your malpractice coverage, your bar fees and everything else, there's not a whole lot left. The margins are very thin when you practice law and run a law firm. So I do personal injury law, and I primarily help Marine veterans and people in the veterans community who have been involved in car accidents, truck accidents, and motorcycle accidents and stuff like that, because I'm sick of seeing all my Marine brothers and military veterans get screwed by insurance companies. So that's what I do. And as an adjunct to that, on my spare time and pro hoc, and sometimes in pro bono, I do Second Amendment rights law and other types of civil rights claims. But one of the mainstays of my civil rights claims that I still do to this day are tight handcuff cases involving fingertip and wrist amputations, as well as police shooting cases. So I do handle those cases still as part of my personal injury law practice. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover something that's just as important, and that's the Fourth Amendment. And so after Donald Trump's political show trials orchestrated by the Democrats, the bullshit fake RussiaGate story that was created by Hillary Clinton in order to try and discredit Bush along with the Obama White House, is Trump now in a position where he wants to pardon Edward Snowden? That's going to be the question that we ask today. I know there's a lot of commies that are on YouTube who think that anything CNN says is true, but Barack Obama orchestrated all of this with the CIA and the FBI, his political appointees, to try and discredit Donald Trump and make him look bad. And so since Trump pardoned the January 6ers, do you think he might pardon Edward Snowden? And that's the question that I've asked today. And we're going to get into watching some video about Edward Snowden so you can learn a little bit of his history. It's going to be short. I'm not going to do a super long show today. I'm kind of tired. I've had a rough weekend going live with you guys over the weekend and creating content and then working on my cases in the daytime. So I'm an active practicing attorney, and this is a donations only channel. I don't take any sponsorships. There is only one person that I would consider taking a sponsorship from, and that's Cubs to Bears Books. And that would be my friend Brett Pike, who is a homeschooler advocate. But other than that, I'm not beholden to anyone. I'm not beholden to Big Pharma. I'm not beholden to the military industrial complex. I do these things because I care about the country, and I homeschool my kids, and I want them to learn critical thinking, and I want them to not just believe whatever the government tells them. Give me a bunch of ones if you're somebody like that and you understand where I'm coming from. So what we'll do is we'll start with the first video. So I don't see anybody in the chat, which is kind of weird, except for Jody. So let me just see here. Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone in the chat. That's just really weird. So that is really funky. Hold on one second, guys. Let me try to get back to the other screen that I was at. Now, for some reason, I just went from my main screen to what looks like back into the regular video. So that's kind of funky. Let me take a look and see how that affects me over at the other screen. Hopefully it's still good. Hey, Stomper, good seeing you, buddy. So just bear with me before we start the video, because it looks like somehow or another my picture got screwed up on my end. I want to make sure that it's still good with you guys before I move forward with the video. So waiting for people to come into the chat. I see Stomper made it in. It looks like we've got looks like some people are showing up. Guys, is my screen looking weird to you? On my screen, it's all messed up. So I want to make sure it looks okay with you. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Countermind 3? Looking good. Okay, let me see. What does Jody say? Jody says, hold on, let me get rid of this thing. Yeah, all right. So, man, that really sucks. It looks like something got screwed up for me, but that's just on my end. So, all right. Well, so far it looks okay on my end. Tell me, guys, does my screen look okay to you? Because I just screwed everything up on Restream. As you can tell, I'm not an expert at this stuff. I'm still kind of learning the ropes when it comes to using this thing, but it looks like it is. Let me just really quick. I'm going to listen to myself and see if I can catch up. Okay, well, it looks like it's still looking good. Okay, so, all right, guys. So let's start with the first video. of the day, and let's learn about Edward Snowden. Here we go.
Security leak in American history, Edward Snowden remains exiled in Russia, unable to set foot on U.S. soil without losing his freedom.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot.
He is a lawbreaker.
He's a traitor.
I hope we can catch him at some point.
I think the proper outcome would be that he would be given a death sentence.
The U.S. government was illegally surveilling its own citizens, and because of Bush, Obama, and Hillary Clinton, we were on track to become an Orwellian police state. This hasn't happened yet, thanks in large part to Edward Snowden.
Well, I would have to disagree with that. I would say compared to what our founding fathers wanted for this country, we are a police state. We know that they fly around in helicopters, they can tap into our cell phones without a warrant, and they can use evidence that they obtained from our cell phones without a warrant to try and fabricate things against us. And we know that they can do that with vans and surveillance vehicles, and we know how they do it. And so I would say that that's probably not a fair statement. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Let's keep listening.
Who deserves not only a presidential pardon, but a hero's welcome home. Once upon a time, Trump shared the establishment view, calling Snowden a spy who should be executed.
I think he's a total traitor, and I would deal with him harshly.
Around the end of his first term, however, Trump changed his mind.
Do you want to give Edward Snowden a pardon and bring him back? You once suggested that.
Well, I'm going to look at it.
should be-
I mean, I'm not that aware of the Snowden situation, but I'm going to start looking at it. There are many, many people. It seems to be a split decision. There many people think that he should be somehow treated differently, and other people think he did very bad things. And I'm going to take a very good look at it.
I think he liked the idea, the kind of flair of it, and wanted to do it.
Journalist Glenn Greenwald says that he was personally involved in discussions with the Trump administration about pardoning Snowden, and at one point, Trump was convinced to go through with it.
I engaged in a huge amount of effort in the transition after Trump lost the election in 2020, before he left the White House, and I know for certain that he came very close to pardoning Edward Snowden. But there were a lot of people I know very close to Trump, who Trump trusts, who Trump listened to a lot, who were strongly advocating for that. There were other people, unfortunately, who Trump also trusted, unfortunately, like Mike Pompeo and a few of those sort of Marco Rubio, a few of those sort of like standard Republican militarists who were adamantly opposed.
Well, and why would that be? Well, that's because a lot of these guys were on like the Senate Intelligence Committee, and they're aware of the surveillance. But guess who they get political funding from? Companies like Palantir. We know that communist China has been found to have infiltrated the Democrat Party. We know that Barbara Boxer had a communist spy from China driving her car as a chauffeur for over 20 years. We know that Eric Swalwell was banging a communist Chinese spy on his staff that he had as a congressional staffer. We know that they share information with our enemy, the communist Chinese, and the communist Chinese use shell corporations, use drug cartels. They bring in gold and silver to pay off these politicians. So why would any of these guys want this information to be public, right? This is how they make their living, by fleecing the taxpayer, right? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Let's keep going.
To the pardon of Snowden.
Now Trump has less to lose by angering the GOP establishment than he did in 2021. For better or for worse, he's already shown a zeal for using the pardon power to settle scores, starting with a blanket pardon of the January 6 rioters. He kept his promise to the Libertarian Party by freeing the founder of the dark web drug market, the Silk Road. By pardoning Snowden, Trump could really give the finger to the DC establishment, and incidentally, do the right thing by sending a message to the world in this moment of creeping global surveillance and censorship.
And by the way, after what happened to Trump, I think he would be a complete idiot to not pardon Snowden. I mean, after all, look, he got convicted by an all-Democrat judge, all Democrat prosecutors using George Soros' dirty money, right, through his different shell corporations and nonprofits. We know that all of those convictions are going to be reversed on appeal, but the idea is they knew that he was popular. They knew that he was going to expose election interference, and they knew that he was going to expose all this stuff, so they did everything that they could to keep him off the ballot. They tried to prevent him from running in, I think, like 30 states. That's how terrified they were of him. There were 2 assassination attempts that CNN barely talked about. I mean, come on, guys. Don't you think that this guy probably has every motive in the world to pardon this guy. Tell me what you think in the sidebar, because I'm pretty sure he'd be crazy not to do it. Let's go.
Censorship. Snowden was right. Snowden says that watching the director of national intelligence lie to the Senate in 2013 was his breaking point.
What a piece
The
of
moment
garbage
he
this guy
realized
was.
he'd be morally compromised if he didn't risk everything to expose the truth.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
Liar.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
Liar.
That was a witting, bald-faced lie.
That was under penalty of perjury, and he's never been prosecuted for perjury. That's the kind of power these guys have, right? The President Obama protected all these lying pieces of trash. Let's keep going.
There's no saving an intelligence community that believes it can lie to the public and the legislators. Seeing that really meant for me there was no going back.
Mr. Snowden's been charged with 3 felonies. If in fact he believes that what he...
That's ripe hearing Bathhouse Barry, Mr. Otto Penn himself, who probably was the brains behind the Obama administration in flooding our country with at least 20 million illegal aliens, at least 5 million gotaways, fentanyl, a known Marxist, right? He allowed Eric Holder of the Weather Underground, right, who held people hostage on a college campus, become the Attorney General of the United States. This is the guy who wants to take down this country and turn us into a communist shithole. And this guy has the balls to call Eric Snowden a felon. He hasn't even been convicted, right? Let's keep listening.
He did was right. Then, like every American citizen, he can come here, appear before the court with a lawyer.
Not true.
And make his case.
Not
But
true.
a fair trial was unlikely.
That's right.
Snowden was charged under the 1917 Espionage Act, which was passed during World War I and used to quash anti-war
Gloria.
activism, landing socialist presidential candidate Eugene Debs in prison for advocating draft resistance. Under the Espionage Act, the Rosenbergs got the electric chair for selling nuclear secrets to the Soviets. But the law wasn't supposed to apply to whistleblowers exposing government lies.
That's right.
So a judge wouldn't have allowed Snowden to present his rationale for leaking classified information, just as it didn't allow Daniel Ellsberg.
Hear that? So the way the law is written is that, yeah, sure, Obama, Bathhouse Barry is over there talking about how Snowden, well, he can just come and present his case. No, he can't. He can't. The way the law is written, he's a whistleblower. He can't. Keep listening. You guys are going to be blown away. Don't believe anything you hear or see on any of corporate media. It's all lies. Let's keep listening.
Who exposed official lies about the Vietnam War to explain his motivation while on federal trial in 1973.
I wasn't able to say anything about that, or why I felt that it was reasonable to risk my life to get these truths to the American people. Snowden wouldn't have any chance to say any of those things. He couldn't say those to a jury. The prosecutor would say, objection, irrelevant, as in my case. And under the current terms of the Espionage Act, the judge would have to agree. It was never meant to be applied to whistleblowers, as President Obama has now done 7 times.
If Snowden had turned himself in, as Obama advised, he would have faced a show trial. Just look at what happened to Army Private and WikiLeaks source.
Show trials, just like Donald Trump got. Political show trials. All Democrat juries, all Democrat prosecutors, all Democrat judges, all on marching orders directly from Bathhouse Barry's White House, as well as Sleepy Joe's White House. Same exact kind of thing. Let's keep going.
Bradley Manning. He spent 9 months in solitary confinement before standing trial. Manning, who would later identify as Chelsea, ended up serving years in prison before Obama commuted the 35-year sentence.
The United States will always be my home, and I'll always be willing.
Well, the guy turned trans, so Bathhouse Barry probably liked him, right? Because we know that he likes, according to many guys who dress like women, right? So, but do you think he'd pardon Edward Snowden? I doubt it.
To come back on a single condition, and I've been quite clear about this over the years. This is that the government guarantee that I have the right, and every whistleblower has the right, to tell the jury why they did what they did.
If Snowden had come back without that guarantee, Would he have gotten the electric chair like the Rosenbergs?
We've had the traitor Edward Snowden steal that information. He should be brought back from Russia and given due process, and I think the proper outcome would be that
Mike Pompeo, total sellout, totally part of the globalist WEF nightmare, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let's keep watching.
he would be given a death sentence for having put friends of mine, friends of yours who serve in the military today at enormous risk because of the information he stole and then released.
Yeah, he showed information that we were being ordered to do stuff that violated human rights. That's what he did. So yeah, that would probably put people in danger if they were violating people's rights. But don't you think that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, guys? Don't you think we should have more freedom, not less, in order to expose corruption in the government? Isn't that what our founding fathers wanted for this country? Give me a bunch of ones if you agree that our founding fathers would have probably supported Edward Snowden. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that our founding fathers would have supported Bathhouse Barry and Mike Pompeo.
Foreign powers.
There's no direct evidence that Snowden handed material to foreign powers, nor that any intelligence agents were harmed by the published material, which Snowden filtered through journalists like Greenwald. Investigative journalist Edward Epstein wrote a 2017 book, Impugning Snowden, pointing to data Snowden took from the NSA that had nothing to do with illegal surveillance. He implies that Snowden was no hero, just a disgruntled employee who carelessly jeopardized American security.
He was in the palm of the Russian intelligence services' hands. When they have someone in their palm,
so that's what they
they're
do.
going to squeeze them.
But Epstein's case has some major holes. He alleged that Snowden likely intended...
It's all about Russia, Russia, Russia. Anytime these guys get caught, these criminals who run the CIA or the FBI, at least these guys, they automatically blame Russia. But the evidence shows, based upon the released files, that it was our own government who was doing far worse than the KGB could have ever done to their own people, using things that companies like Google helped the communist Chinese create to surveil their own people. And our own government officials, our Marxist government officials that are implanted in the administrative bureaucracies, thought it would be useful to use against you. But Edward Snowden's a tool of Russia for exposing it. Think about how ridiculous that sounds.
All along to trade classified documents to Putin's intelligence forces in exchange for asylum. But Snowden has convincingly argued that ending up in Russia was never his intention, and that the US government trapped him there by revoking his passport. He was actually seeking refuge in Ecuador, and he had to leave Hong Kong because the local authorities threatened him with arrest.
We were traveling to Quito, Ecuador, via Moscow, via Havana, via Caracas, for a simple reason. It was the only safe route available. There were no direct flights to Quito from Hong Kong, and all of the other connecting flights traveled through U.S. airspace.
Okay, so what does that mean? So for those of you who don't understand the law, if you're traveling in U.S. airspace, that means that you can be seized. So even though you're not on U.S. grounds, even though you're not in a country that might extradite to the United States, that might have an extradition treaty, if you're within that airspace, they can send in F-16s and they can turn that airplane around. And so basically it was being orchestrated to make it impossible for him to be able to do that. And so that's why he was taking a circuitous route to try to avoid being stuck in U.S. airspace. So let's keep going.
I think everyone would agree, probably including the Russian president himself, that he is an authoritarian leader. I think the Russian government broadly does not have a good record on...
So here you have this guy who's supposedly a tool of Russia, who finally sought refuge and received amnesty in Russia, using free speech in Russia to say that Putin is an authoritarian. If he's such an authoritarian, why didn't he immediately kick this guy out of his country? That's what I'm trying to understand. Can you guys help me understand why that isn't the case? I'm totally confused at this point.
Human rights, and that hasn't changed.
So why does the DC establishment hate Snowden? Because he exposed their lies and undermined their power. Snowden proved that Clapper lied in his Senate testimony,
Sure did.
And Obama and his inner circle knew about it.
Yep.
The documents he leaked revealed numerous illegal intrusions on the private communications of millions of Americans, though apparently the senators he spoke to that day already knew that, according to Clapper's former head counsel.
So all these people who are calling Snowden a traitor knew that our government was illegally spying on us, but they label him the traitor. Who's the bigger traitor? The one who swore an oath to uphold the Fourth Amendment, or the one who exposed people like Barry Soetoro and Clapper and all these lowlifes like, what was that one? What's his name? Oh man, there's so many of them. I'll think of it in a minute, but let's keep listening.
It wasn't just cell phone records. Snowden also revealed the existence of the secret electronic surveillance program known as PRISM, in which the NSA forced companies like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and Apple to turn over their users' personal information with secret court orders. He revealed how British and American intelligence collaborated to tap fiber optic cables and break encryption for Google and Yahoo customers without the company's knowledge. He revealed that a program called X-Keyscore created digital fingerprints allowing spies to ID users based on their search patterns and track them, even if they changed.
Spying on our own citizens within the continental United States without a warrant. Okay, this is a big freaking deal, guys. What I don't understand is why isn't CNN, PMSNBC, ABC, and CBS talking about this? Well, who do they receive their political campaign funding from? Not strike that. Well, they are basically propaganda networks for the left, but besides that, who do they receive their advertising money from? The same corporations that build these spying machines. Okay, that's why. Okay, let's keep listening.
Usernames or computers. All of this private data was supposed to be stored at a $1.5 billion secret facility in Utah. Collecting a haystack in search of a needle violates the Fourth Amendment's protection against unlawful search and seizure. But that was the strategy. It was a collect the whole haystack approach, as one insider told the Washington Post. So, the NSA was building the architecture to permanently store the communications of everyone on the internet without the knowledge or consent.
Do you think that the NSA still doesn't keep every single cell phone conversation you've had, every single video that you've snapped in their central computer system? Do you think they don't? Give me a bunch of ones if you think they don't. Give me a bunch of ones if you think, twos if you think that they do. It's totally unconstitutional, guys. It's a violation of your rights as Americans. Who's the bigger traitor, the ones that are allowing this or the guy who exposed it? And it's convenient to say that he's a Russian asset, but why don't you look at the facts instead of trying to characterize him or use ad hominem attacks? Look at what he exposed. I mean, you should be outraged at what these public servants have done to we the people in our Bill of Rights. This is unbelievable to me that you guys are still trying to say that he's just a Russian agent. Look at what he exposed and look at who was doing it. Let's keep going.
Of the American people. In Snowden's words, the NSA's job was to help create a permanent record on all of us.
A job managing and connecting the flow of intelligence gave way to a job figuring out how to store it forever, which in turn gave way to a job making sure it was universally available and searchable. Engineering a system that would keep a permanent record of everyone's life was a tragic mistake.
That might make catching criminals more convenient, but it also meant violating the privacy of every American.
Of you.
And could empower the sort of authoritarian techno-surveillance state that's emerged in China.
That's right.
We see how these same technologies are being applied to create what they call the social credit system.
That's what they did in Canada, and their dry run was COVID, okay, with the lockdowns. If you didn't go along with the program, if you didn't take their shot, they would take away your social credit score, they would lock down your bank account, they would take away your ability to drive your truck and feed your family, and they would destroy your life. And that was in Canada, right? And that's why part of Canada is voted to break away, because the part of Canada that wants to stay under a totalitarian system like Trudeau, guess where they get a lot of their money from? The communist Chinese. It's like a communist Chinese satellite state. I mean, the Soviet Socialist Republic of Canada is just like how it's becoming in the United Kingdom, where you can't even talk about all these illegal alien criminals they flooded their country with without going to prison, having your bank account shut down, not being able to feed your family. There's no free speech rights. We are one election away from losing everything, and Snowden exposed it all.
If any of these family photos, if any of your activities online, if your purchases, if your associations, if your friends are in any way different from what the government or the powers that be of the moment would like.
I do see an absurd comment by somebody in the chat, probably a Canadian. What are you afraid of? What did you do? Joseph Goebbels is the one who coined the term, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Well, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of people like that make ridiculous comments like that. Under Joe Stalin, there was a phrase that was coined that was used by the KGB. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. In a society where laws are so voluminous, like we have today in Canada and the United States, everyone's an outlaw, guys. Everyone's guilty of something. That's why. They need to stay out of our business. They serve we the people. We don't serve them. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. What a ridiculous comment. Why are you even on this channel? This is where the adults go. Go back to Romper Room over at CNN and do your communist Marxist crap over there. Wrong channel, buddy.
Them to be. You're no longer able to purchase train tickets. You're no longer able to board an airplane. You may not be able to get a passport. You may not be eligible for a job. You might not be able to work for the government. All of these things are increasingly being created and programmed and decided by algorithms. And those algorithms are fueled by precisely the innocent data that our devices are creating all of the time.
That's right.
After the Snowden revelations, a federal judge ruled against the intelligence agencies, writing that bulk collection of Americans' phone records exceeds the scope of what Congress has authorized, and that the sheer volume of information collected.
But they still didn't stop, and they still kept lying. The director of the NSA, all of them under Obama, but it also happened under Bush. They all lied before Congress, and the senators and congressmen all knew that they were lying. Think about that, guys. Just let that go through your brain housing group for a second. This is a big deal. That's why I wanted to present this to you tonight.
By the NSA was staggering. Another court considering the surveillance of conservative activist Larry Klayman determined it likely that the NSA's bulk collection program is indeed an unreasonable search under the Fourth Amendment. That would never have happened if not for Snowden's actions, which also inspired congressional reform and, most importantly, brought public awareness, which had all sorts of direct and indirect effects, an outcome NYU journalism professor Jay Rosen termed the Snowden effect. Thanks to the Snowden revelations, Apple branded itself around privacy.
At Apple, we believe privacy is a fundamental human right.
Messaging app.
Look, if Apple wants to have favorable taxes and not get investigated by whether it's Trump or whoever's in power, they got to go along with the program, guys. That's how they do it. They'll send one of their agencies after you. They'll say, oh, SEC found that you violate. They'll just make something up. They'll find a way. Again, show me the man, show me the company, and I'll show you the crime. If these guys don't go along with the program, do you really think that your Apple phone is secure? Come on, guys. Really? Do you? Give me a bunch of ones if you think your handheld phones are secured from illegal, unlawful government surveillance. Give me a bunch of twos if you're one of these guys who sucks up to Canada and thinks that the government should just be able to do whatever the hell they want. Because after all, it's only if you're guilty, only if you've done something wrong. So it shouldn't matter, right? The government should be able to just invade every aspect of your life. Privacy? You must be one of those Trump supporters. You want to have privacy? You're crazy, right? Come on. Let's keep going.
Apps that use end-to-end encryption like Signal and WhatsApp flourished, and major platforms like Facebook incorporated strong encryption into their private messaging. And
sure they did. By the way, thank you, SW Observer, for purchasing the memberships. That's a great way to support the channel. This is a donations-only channel. SW Observer is over in Sweden, and he knows about the surveillance state, and he knows what's going on. He knows exactly what the globalists, World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, Trudeau, Obama, all these globalists, King Charles, flooding their country with sub-Saharan Africans with IQs of like 50, right? Easy to govern, easy to control, immediately going on welfare, becoming guaranteed voters for the Labor Party or whatever party's in power. I mean, it's just crazy, guys. I mean, look at what's happening to Europe. It's not even recognizable. These are the people who are doing it. The same people who say that your phone is secure. Give me a freaking break. Here we go.
Now understands the power of secretive FISA courts to authorize all sorts of spying without any oversight.
I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations.
Sure you did, Barry.
Before Mr. Snowden made these leaks.
Should Snowden have just sat?
Barry Soetoro, the spawn of the Central Intelligence Agency, bought and paid for by the CIA, telling you that your phones are secure. Do you really believe that for 1 second? Come on, guys.
Sat on the material and waited for Obama to make these reforms? Maybe filed an internal complaint? He says he tried and got nowhere. Daniel Ellsberg was also criticized for not using official channels, even though he tried to alert Congress that the official narrative about Vietnam was a lie.
It was. The Gulf of Tonkin never happened. It was a lie. And my father died from Agent Orange, from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, from that bullshit war. And I'm proud of him for being a Marine, and I became a Marine because of him. But I'm telling you right now, it was based on lies. The whole thing was a lie. And I'll tell you something else about whistleblowers. I represent whistleblower cops. They don't have any protection. They'll get blacklisted. They'll get green lighted. You try being a whistleblower cop and see how it destroys your life. Most whistleblower cops I know, even if they win their cases, they're alcoholics. They're drugged out of their mind. Their lives are ruined. It's over. Let's keep going.
As if the Nixon administration would have taken his concerns seriously. Henry Kissinger later called Ellsberg the most dangerous man in America. He was wiretapped by
Henry Kissinger, a Moloch worshiper, straight from Babylon. Total disgrace. What a disgrace. You guys know anything about Henry Kissinger? Big time globalist, one world government, Baal worshiper, right? Yeah. Do you believe in this guy here, Hoover? Come on, blackmailed all these presidents so he could stay in power. He had all the goods on them. Videos of these guys getting it on with little boys or whatever they were doing, showing it to him. Hey, you probably don't want to kick me out of office. And how many FBI directors do you know of that stay in power multiple administrations? Well, the ones that have surveillance on the presidents or the guys who are going to take office.
FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, and the president's henchmen even broke into his psychiatrist's office to try to dig up dirt on him. When John Kerry criticized Snowden, he drew a contrast with Ellsberg's patriotism.
There are many a patriot. You can go back to the Pentagon Papers with Dan Ellsberg and others who stood and went to the court system of America and made their case. Edward Snowden is a coward. He is a traitor.
You think Frankenstein over here has any credibility? Come on, the guy who flies around in jets that pollute the atmosphere while he complains about how global warming, even though a volcano can do far more damage than hundreds of years of gas-powered cars to the ozone layer. This idiot is out there, Frankenstein, Herman Munster, is out there criticizing people who are trying to bring sunlight to the depravity and the destruction of the Bill of Rights. I mean, think about that for a second, guys. Think about that.
Ellsberg called Kerry's comments despicable.
He calls Edward Snowden a fugitive from justice. I would say that he's right in regarding himself as a fugitive from injustice.
Amen.
That appeared in my own trial 43 years ago. I was not allowed by the nature of the charges against me under the Espionage Act to describe my motives, my reasons, the considerations that had led me to break my promise that I'd made to the government.
So would you want to have a trial where you're not allowed to offer evidence and mitigation or exculpatory evidence? Would you? Where would you go? You'd go to the only country that would offer you safe haven. And in this case, it's Russia. But now automatically that makes him a Russian asset. Come on, guys, give me a break. He exposed the fact that our own government was in violation of the Fourth Amendment of these United States. And you're so stupid that you went along with the narrative of CNN, PMSNBC, and Fox News. Give me a freaking break.
Many times not to reveal their secrets.
But John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama, like Kissinger, Hoover, and Nixon before them, nevertheless pushed the absurd claim that the government's illegal actions and bald-faced lies could have been addressed by complaining through the official channels.
My preference, and I think the American people's preference.
So let me tell you something, because I'm a lawyer, okay, a comparison. If somebody wants to bring a work comp claim or they want to file an employment discrimination lawsuit, guess who they have to complain to first? Their boss. Think about that. They literally have to complain to their boss. Okay. What does that give the boss the opportunity time to do? Come on. Really? Let's keep going, guys. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws, a thoughtful, fact-based debate.
Listen to this idiot.
That would then lead us to a better place.
But that debate would have never happened if Snowden hadn't forced Obama and the intelligence agencies to admit what they were doing.
That's right.
So why should Trump pardon Snowden? Well, he has firsthand experience with the kind of unaccountable surveillance Snowden exposed. The same secretive FISA court that rubber-stamped the NSA's mass surveillance authorized spying on former Trump advisor Carter Page based on faulty information supplied by the FBI.
Unelected deep state operatives who defy the voters to push their own secret agendas are truly a threat to democracy itself.
It was Snowden who alerted a generation of Americans to this danger. To do this, he gave up a comfortable life, earning a six-figure salary as a government contractor, living in Hawaii with his girlfriend.
You can go to work, you can collect your large paycheck for relatively little work against the public interest and go to sleep at night.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, what's orange and sleep six? A Caltrans truck. I mean, government work isn't work. That's why you call them government employees, right? Why would this guy give all that up unless he really believed in what he was doing? Do you think this guy would rather be in Hawaii with his girl, or do you think he'd rather be over in Russia? I mean, give me freezing his ass off. Think about that for a minute, guys. Let's keep going.
After watching your shows, but if you realize that that's the world that you helped create, and it's going to get worse with the next generation and the next generation who extend the capabilities of this sort of architecture of oppression, you realize that you might be willing to accept any risk. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is, so long as the public gets to make their own decisions about how that's applied.
The danger Snowden exposed is more present than ever, as the government seeks to spend $500 million integrating AI into key federal agencies and tapping the data analytics.
And we dodged a bullet. In the big, beautiful bill, there was a provision that there would be 10 years of unrestricted AI that Palantir wanted in there, right? And we know that they work with the Mossad. We know that it's all about surveilling the American people. Look, they flood the country with criminals, and they're like, oh, well, we need to monitor everybody that's here after we've made the whole country unsafe and didn't secure our borders. And look, I'll donate a bunch of money to your political campaign if you just put this provision in the bill. Luckily, that got stripped out, I believe, in committee. And that's what Max Bonilla was on here a few weeks or a week ago talking about with Brett Pike about the big, beautiful bill and what happened there. But I mean, guys, they're there, and they're the ones giving money to these politicians. I helped draft the Cruise Ship Safety Act, and it was because these cruise ships take advantage of our laws. They get all our customs officials and security for free. They don't pay taxes, and they just donate money to these politicians. They were able to strip out the enforcement provision from the Cruise Ship Safety Act, so it has no teeth. So that's what they do. They'll pass a bill. Oh, look, we made cruise ships safe. No, you didn't. There's no provision in there to hold them accountable. What are the penalties? What are they? Come on, guys. There's none. A lot of these cruise ships, based on my knowledge, haven't even put the man overboard systems. And this is stuff that I was working on back in 2010. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. Let's keep listening.
Firm Palantir to scour a centralized federal database Trump created by executive order. But because Snowden made the public aware of these dangers more than a decade ago, our culture and technology has had time to adapt and figure out ways to protect privacy and evade unwanted surveillance. We owe Snowden an enormous debt, and Trump should let him come home.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I mean, that was pretty much the show for tonight. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can get this bad chicken, get this guy out of here and put me up. See if I can maximize. So what do you guys think? I put a poll up there on the show. It's something that I think about all the time. I can't believe that the American people were allowed to be hoodwinked like this, to think that this guy's the problem when he's a whistleblower exposing illegal surveillance on the American people. And the American people, oh, well, CNN said that he's a traitor, or Frankenstein. John Kerry said he's a traitor, or Rubio, the uniparty system, all getting money from the same corporations to fund their political campaigns. Do you guys think that they're the traitors, or do you think that Edward Snowden is the traitors? Give me a bunch of ones if you think they're the traitors. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that Edward Snowden is the traitor. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hit the gym and then take my son to judo. But I do appreciate you guys hanging out on my show. Thank you, What's the Matter You, for showing up, and Trip Switch and Joe Huerta, Wanda Mugaboni, and JC, all you guys, Kinetic Customs and Racing. You guys are all awesome. Even the commies who come on here and support guys like Bathhouse Barry. It's always nice to see your stupid, idiotic comments. And it's just wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for showing up. And with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you for all the super chats, the donations, and the memberships. It really does help support the channel. I'm living on fumes right now, trying to run a law firm and work on saving people's lives and making their lives better, and then coming on here to do the same thing for you. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die. Do you think that Donald Trump is going to pardon him? Do you? I don't think so. That's my take on it. Put it in the